Femi had a secret, or rather, 7 secrets. 7 beautiful, intelligent women, each of whom believed they were the one Femi would marry. In the bustling city of Lagos, amidst the hum of busy markets and glittering nightclubs, there was a young man named Femi Williams. At 29, Femi was the only son of Chief Williams, one of the wealthiest businessmen in Nigeria. With his father's immense wealth and influence, Femi had grown accustomed to having life served to him on a silver platter. Handsome, with a charming smile that could melt even the coldest heart, Femi was as vain as he was irresponsible. Femi had perfected the art of seduction. To Aisha, the soft-spoken fashion designer from Abuja, he was a tender romantic, reciting poems about forever. For Kemi, the fiercely ambitious lawyer, he played the role of an intellectual equal, discussing politics and her career goals over glasses of fine wine. With Femi, a bubbly social media influencer, he was the life of the party, showering her with expensive gifts and love-bombing her with compliments. The pattern repeated with Ngozi, a sharp-witted journalist, Mariam, a soft-hearted nurse, Ino, an introverted artist, and Titi, a high-flying banker. Each woman saw a version of Femi that he carefully curated just for her. And Femi's charm, wealth, and good looks made it easy for the women to believe in his promises of love and marriage. Whenever his friends teased him about juggling so many girlfriends, Femi would laugh and boast, "I'm just having a nice time. They all know I'm the heir apparent. No woman will ever leave me." Managing 7 girlfriends was no small feat, but Femi thrived on the thrill. Every aspect of his life became a careful orchestration to ensure that none of the women crossed paths. Femi maintained separate phones for each girlfriend, each one programmed with their special ringtones. A sudden call from Ngozi while he was with Kemi? He'd quickly excuse himself, claiming a work emergency, and answer only when he was in the clear. His schedule was a work of art. Mondays were reserved for Aisha, who preferred quiet evenings at upscale restaurants. Tuesdays, he'd visit Mariam at her hospital, bringing her lunch and whispered sweet nothings. Wednesdays were for Ngozi, who loved impromptu trips to the movies. Thursdays belonged to Titi, who insisted on fancy dinner dates. Fridays and Saturdays, he alternated between Kemi and Femi, ensuring their activities never overlapped. Sundays, his one free day, were often spent with Ino in her cozy art studio, watching her paint while he feigned interest in her creations. Even his cars were strategically chosen. He drove his sleek black Mercedes when with Ngozi, who admired sophistication, and his rugged SUV when with Femi, who loved adventure. Femi's life was a series of close calls. One fateful Thursday, while having lunch with Titi at a posh Lagos cafe, he spotted Aisha walking in with a friend. His heart raced as he quickly concocted an excuse about needing to leave for a business meeting. Titi was annoyed but relented, and Femi slipped out the back door before Aisha could see him. On another occasion, Kemi, suspicious of Femi's constant phone calls, grabbed his phone while he was in the shower. She didn't unlock it, but the flood of notifications from different women raised her eyebrows. Femi managed to smooth things over by claiming they were work-related texts, flashing his trademark disarming smile. The most harrowing moment came when Femi invited Femi to a public event where she was hosting. Unbeknownst to her, Ngozi was covering the event as a journalist. Femi spent the entire evening dodging both women, inventing an elaborate story about needing to help his father with a business deal to leave early. Despite the mounting tension, Femi reveled in his double life. He saw himself as a modern-day Casanova, the master of manipulation. The adrenaline of the hide-and-seek thrilled him more than the relationships themselves. But as time went on, Femi began to notice the toll his lifestyle was taking. Lies became harder to keep track of, and the demands of maintaining 7 relationships grew increasingly exhausting. "Femi, why don't you ever let me meet your parents?" Ngozi asked one day. "Soon, my love," Femi replied, dodging her gaze. "I just want the timing to be perfect." Similar questions began to pop up from the other women, and Femi knew he was skating on thin ice. Still, he refused to change. His pride and vanity convinced him that he could keep juggling his secrets forever. And so, Femi continued his escapades, weaving an ever-complex web of lies and deceit, blissfully unaware that even the most skillful of players can only run the game for so long before the clock runs out. Femi was living on borrowed time. His double life, or rather septuple life, was spiraling out of control, but he refused to acknowledge it. His charm, wit, and privilege had always bailed him out of trouble, and he saw no reason why they wouldn't continue to. But when tragedy struck his family, Femi's delicate house of cards was put to the ultimate test. Chief Williams's younger brother, Uncle Bayo, had passed away after a brief illness. The Williams family was hosting an elaborate funeral ceremony in Lagos, with dignitaries and extended family members flying in from across the country. For Femi, the funeral presented a dilemma. Protocol demanded he invite his significant other to stand by his side, but which one? After much thought, he decided to invite Ngozi, the sharp-witted journalist, who he believed would fit best into his family's high society circle. "Ngozi, my love," he said over the phone, his voice low and affectionate. "I want you by my side at my uncle's funeral. It's important to me. My parents will be there, and I want them to meet the woman I care about." Ngozi, elated by the prospect, agreed without hesitation. "Of course, Femi. I'll be there for you." Satisfied, Femi moved on with his week, unaware that his carefully laid plans were about to unravel. Unknown to Femi, news of the funeral had spread far and wide. Aisha overheard a mutual acquaintance mention it at a boutique. Femi spotted an Instagram story tagged at the Williams mansion. Kemi, with her lawyerly instincts, pieced things together after overhearing Femi's vague excuses about a family matter. Mariam, Ino, and Titi learned about it through similar indirect channels. Each woman decided, independently, that this was their opportunity to solidify their place in Femi's life by showing up to support him. On the day of the funeral, the Williams mansion was filled with mourners dressed in somber traditional attire. Femi, standing at the center of the reception area, was oblivious to the storm brewing as one by one his 7 girlfriends arrived. Femi's first warning came when he spotted Aisha entering the reception hall. His heart skipped a beat. What is she doing here? He quickly scanned the room to ensure Ngozi hadn't seen her. "Femi, darling," Aisha said, embracing him. "I couldn't let you face this alone." "Aisha, this is so thoughtful of you," Femi replied, forcing a smile. "Please sit over there. I'll come find you shortly." Before he could recover, Femi appeared, her bright smile lighting up the somber room. "Femi, I'm so sorry for your loss," she said, holding his hand a moment too long. "Femi, thank you for coming," Femi said, his mind racing. "Let me introduce you to some family members. Wait here for just a moment." As he led Femi away, his phone buzzed. It was Kemi. "I'm here," she texted. "What? Why?" Femi typed back furiously, but there was no time for an explanation. Within minutes, Mariam arrived, then Ino, and finally Titi. Femi's world was collapsing around him. He stood in the center of the room, surrounded by 7 women, each looking at him expectantly. Femi's brain worked overtime, concocting lies as fast as his lips could move. He approached Ngozi first, his official guest. "My love," he whispered, taking her aside. "You're about to see some strange things today. A few women from my past might show up, family acquaintances, old flings. But none of them matter. You're the only one who's important to me." Ngozi nodded, suspicious, but mollified for the moment. Next, he moved to Aisha. "Aisha, my cousin Funk is here, and she looks just like you. People might mistake her for someone special to me. Please don't pay attention to any gossip." To Femi, he said, "Femi, this is a public event, and you know how the press loves to speculate. I need you to stay low-key to avoid any unnecessary drama." He told Kemi, "Kemi, you're a lawyer. You understand how families work during funerals. Everyone thinks they're close to you, but they're not. I'll explain later. Miriam, Eno, and Titi each received similar stories, carefully crafted to deflect their suspicions. While most of the women were temporarily placated, Kemi wasn't so easily fooled. She observed Femi's behavior throughout the day, noticing his nervous glances and whispered conversations. After the ceremony, she cornered him in a quiet room. "Femi, what's going on?" she demanded. "Who are all these women? And don't insult my intelligence by lying to me." Femi sighed, his mask slipping for a moment. "Kemi, you're reading too much into this. These women mean nothing to me. If you can't trust me, maybe we shouldn't be together." Kemi's eyes widened in shock. She opened her mouth to argue, but the thought of losing Femi made her pause. Despite her suspicions, her feelings for him ran deep. "I'm sorry, Femi," she said quietly. "I'll drop it." "Good," Femi said, his tone sharp. "Don't bring this up again." By the end of the day, Femi had narrowly avoided disaster. The 7 women left the funeral, each with lingering doubts, but no concrete evidence of his duplicity, except Kemi, who chose silence over confrontation. As Femi sat alone in his room that night, he felt a rare pang of guilt. But the sensation was fleeting. "I'm untouchable," he muttered to himself, a smug smile creeping onto his face. Unbeknownst to him, however, the game was far from over. One of the women was about to discover the truth, and this time, there would be no escape. Femi's world continued to spin in its chaotic orbit. After successfully outwitting his 7 girlfriends at his uncle's funeral, he returned to his double life, confident that his charm and quick thinking would always save him. But not everyone in his circle was as blind as the women he juggled. One of Femi's oldest friends, Dare, had grown increasingly concerned about his lifestyle. Dare wasn't just a friend. He was also a man of principle, someone who valued honesty and integrity. He had known Femi since their university days and had watched his friend's descent into an unchecked life of deceit with a mixture of frustration and pity. One evening, as they shared drinks at Dare's apartment, the conversation took a serious turn. "Femi," Dare began, setting his glass down, "we need to talk." Femi raised an eyebrow. Dare, what is it now? You sound like my father. Are you about to give me another lecture on morality?" Dare shook his head, his expression firm. "This isn't about morality. It's about your future. Look, I know you think you're invincible, but what you're doing with these women is dangerous. Sooner or later, they'll find out the truth. And when they do, the fallout could ruin you personally, socially, even professionally." Femi sighed and leaned back in his chair. "Dare, you worry too much. I've got everything under control. None of the women suspect a thing." "For now," Dare countered. "But you're playing with fire. You need to make a choice. Pick one of them, Femi. Let the others go. This is not sustainable, and you know it." Femi was quiet for a moment, then nodded. "Okay, fine. You're right. I've been thinking about it, and I know I need to make a decision. Just give me 2 weeks. I'll sort this out and come to you with my final choice." Dare studied him carefully, unsure whether to believe him. 2 weeks, Femi. No more excuses. 2 weeks, Femi repeated, raising his glass in mock seriousness. "I promise." 2 weeks came and went, and Dare heard nothing from Femi. When he finally called his friend, Femi answered with his usual charm. Dare. My brother. How's life treating you?" "Femi," Dare said bluntly, "what's your decision?" Femi laughed nervously. My guy, it's complicated. You know, these women, they're all so unique. I need more time to figure out who's really the best fit for me." Dare sighed. "Femi, this isn't rocket science. You're just stalling." No, Femi insisted. "I swear, I'm close to a decision. Just give me another 2 weeks." Reluctantly, Dare agreed. But 2 weeks turned into a month, and then another, and still Femi made no progress. Whenever Dare pressed him, Femi came up with increasingly ridiculous excuses. There, Aisha just got a huge fashion deal. How can I break her heart now? Femi's influencer career is booming, and she wants us to start a YouTube channel together. I need to let her down gently. Femi just got promoted at her law firm, and it'd be cruel to add heartbreak to her plate right now. Dare's frustration grew with each conversation. Femi, you're not trying to make a decision. You're just enjoying the attention. This isn't fair to any of these women, or to yourself. But Femi brushed off his friend's concerns. Privately, he felt no urgency to change. His life, though complicated, was too much fun to give up. Meanwhile, Femi's illicit affairs with all 7 women continued unabated. He juggled dinner dates, weekend getaways, and late-night rendezvous with the precision of a seasoned performer. Each woman remained convinced that she was the one Femi truly cared for, even as he whispered the same sweet lies to all of them. He told Ngozi, "I'm so busy with family obligations right now, but soon I'll take you to meet my parents." To Femi he said, "You're the only one who truly understands me. I can't wait for us to build a future together." Aisha, Mariam, Femi, and Titi all received similar reassurances, tailored to their personalities and circumstances. Despite Dare's warnings, Femi felt invincible. The thrill of deception, the power of being desired by so many women, and the security of his family's wealth kept him from facing the reality of his actions. One day, after 3 months of Femi's endless stalling, Dare decided he'd had enough. He invited Femi to lunch and laid his cards on the table. "Femi, you promised me 2 weeks. It's been 3 months. What are you playing at?" "Dare," Femi began, smiling sheepishly. "It's not as easy as you think. These women are all amazing in their own way. How can I possibly choose just one?" By being honest with yourself, Dare shot back. "You're not choosing because you don't want to let go of the fun. But let me tell you something. This fun will end badly. Mark my words." Femi leaned forward, his tone playful but deflective. "Dare, my brother, don't stress yourself. I'll figure it out. Trust me." Dare shook his head, exasperated. "You're going to regret this, Femi. And when that day comes, don't say I didn't warn you." Femi laughed and patted his friend on the shoulder. "Relax, Dare. Everything's under control." But deep down, Femi knew he was walking a tightrope, and the safety net below was wearing thin. It was a rare quiet evening in Femi Williams's life. Sitting alone in the opulent mansion his father had gifted him, the young heir swirled a glass of aged whiskey in his hand and allowed his thoughts to drift. The sprawling estate, complete with marble floors, golden chandeliers, and an infinity pool, was a testament to Chief Williams's immense wealth, a wealth Femi had always taken for granted. He had never worked a day in his life. Why should he? Everything he wanted had always been within reach, provided by the deep pockets of his father. His days were filled with pleasure and indulgence, his nights a carousel of passion with the 7 women he'd woven into his web of deception. Yet tonight, Femi's mind wasn't on his usual conquests. Instead, he found himself reflecting on the women who filled his life, and why each of them felt irreplaceable. Femi's lips curled into a nostalgic smile as he thought of Aisha, the first woman to truly capture his attention. They had met 5 years ago at a fashion show in Abuja, where her designs were being showcased. Aisha's quiet elegance and ambitious spirit had drawn him in immediately. She was soft-spoken, but carried herself with a confidence that Femi found intoxicating. Aisha represented stability, the kind of woman who could effortlessly transition between high society events and intimate evenings at home. But Aisha had a flaw. She was too trusting. She believed every word Femi said, no matter how ridiculous. It made her easy to manipulate, but also easy to love in her own way. She's the foundation, Femi thought. The one who set the bar for the rest. Next came Femi, the vibrant influencer who lit up every room she entered. They had met at a yacht party in Lekki, where Femi's infectious laughter had drawn him like a moth to a flame. Femi was pure fun, always brimming with ideas for their next adventure. With her, life felt like a party that never ended. She introduced Femi to a world of social media clout and endless excitement. Her weakness, however, was her need for attention. Femi's life revolved around likes, followers, and trending hashtags. Femi often found her exhausting, but he couldn't deny the thrill she brought into his otherwise predictable life. "She's my escape," he mused. "My reminder that life doesn't always have to be so serious." Then there was Kemi, the fiercely intelligent lawyer who challenged Femi in ways no one else could. They had met during a charity gala, where Kemi had been a keynote speaker. Her sharp wit and no-nonsense attitude had intrigued him instantly. Kemi was the only woman who ever made Femi feel vulnerable. She saw through his lies with alarming precision and wasn't afraid to call him out on his nonsense. Yet, her deep affection for him kept her from walking away. Her strength was her mind, but it was also her weakness. Kemi's intelligence made her harder to manipulate, and Femi often found himself on edge around her. Still, he couldn't let her go. "She's my anchor," he admitted. "The one who keeps me grounded, whether I like it or not." Ngozi, the journalist, was elegance personified. They had crossed paths at a media awards ceremony, where her poise and eloquence had captivated him. Ngozi was a woman of taste, always dressed to perfection and carrying an air of refinement that made Femi feel like royalty. She fit seamlessly into his world of high society, impressing his friends and family alike. But Ngozi's flaw was her pride. She needed constant affirmation of her status as Femi's chosen one, which made her easy to appease but also emotionally draining. "She's my crown jewel," Femi thought. "The one I show off when the world is watching." Titi, the ambitious banker, had entered Femi's life during a financial summit his father had forced him to attend. She was sharp, driven, and fiercely independent, everything Femi wasn't. Titi represented power and ambition, qualities that both intimidated and fascinated him. With her, he felt like a king, basking in her admiration while quietly resenting her success. Her weakness was her vulnerability. Despite her professional success, Titi longed for a fairy tale romance, which Femi exploited mercilessly. "She's my trophy," he admitted. "Proof that even the strongest women can't resist me." Ino, the introverted artist, was a complete departure from the other women in Femi's life. They had met at a gallery opening, where her delicate paintings and quiet demeanor had caught his attention. Ino was soft, sensitive, and deeply emotional. She saw the world through a lens of beauty and creativity, a perspective Femi found both refreshing and perplexing. Her weakness was her insecurity. Ino often doubted her worth, which made her cling to Femi for validation. "She's my sanctuary," he thought. "The one who makes me feel like more than just my father's son." Finally, there was Mariam, the nurse he had met during a routine checkup. She was the newest addition to his harem, and already, she had a special place in his heart. Mariam was pure kindness, always putting others before herself. She saw Femi as a man, not an heir, and treated him with a genuine warmth that he found disarming. Her flaw was her naivety. Mariam believed in the goodness of people, including Femi, a belief he knew he didn't deserve. "She's my innocence," he thought. "The one who reminds me of what love is supposed to be." As Femi sat in his lavish living room, staring at the city lights beyond the window, he realized why he couldn't let go of any of these women. Each one filled a unique void in his life, offering something no one else could. "Together, they make me whole," he whispered to himself. "How can I choose just one when I need all 7 to complete me?" But deep down, Femi knew this was a lie he told himself to justify his actions. The truth was simpler. He was too selfish to let go of his fantasies, too addicted to the power and pleasure of having them all. Yet, as the night wore on, a nagging thought crept into his mind. What happens when the game ends? Femi sat in the dimly lit opulence of his mansion, the whiskey glass trembling slightly in his hand. The silence of the night pressed down on him, broken only by the faint hum of the city beyond his estate. For the first time in years, Femi felt truly alone. He turned his gaze upward. His voice was low at first, but it carried the weight of desperation. "If I were your younger brother," he began, his words trembling with emotion, "who would you ask me to settle with? Who among these 7 women should I take to my parents as the one?" His voice broke, and he covered his face with his hands, his polished demeanor crumbling. "Please help me. I can't keep living like this, lying to them, lying to myself. Tell me who to choose, and I swear, on my father's name, I'll do it. I'll take her to my parents. I'll marry her. Just tell me." He paused, his shoulders heaving with unspoken anguish. Tears welled in his eyes, and he whispered, "I'm begging you. Don't let me fall into the ditch my lust has dug for me. These women don't deserve this. They deserve better. One of them could even be your sister." Dear listeners, you have watched Femi's life unfold with all its tangled threads of desire, deception, and indulgence. You've seen the games he plays, the hearts he toys with, and the lies he tells. But tonight, for the first time, Femi is asking for help, not from his friends, not from his family, but from you. He has promised to follow your guidance, to choose the woman you believe is the best match for him. Is it Aisha, the elegant designer who was his first love, whose quiet confidence could ground him? Is it Femi, the social butterfly who fills his life with laughter and adventure? Is it Kemi, the sharp-minded lawyer who sees through his lies but still loves him deeply? Is it Ngozi, the sophisticated journalist who fits perfectly into his high society world? Is it Titi, the ambitious banker who balances strength and vulnerability? Is it Ino, the sensitive artist who makes him feel like more than just a wealthy heir? Or is it Mariam, the kind-hearted nurse who sees the good in him even when he can't see it himself? Please cast your vote in the comment section. Tell us who you believe should be Femi's final choice. Consider the women's strengths, their flaws, and what they could bring to Femi's life. And, perhaps more importantly, what Femi could bring to theirs. This is no ordinary story. This is a plea for justice for these 7 women who are caught in the grip of a man too selfish to let them go. Your vote could save Femi from himself and save these women from a heartbreak they don't deserve. In the next episode, we will reveal who Femi chooses and whether that choice goes unchallenged. But for now, the power lies in your hands. Please vote wisely. The future of these characters depends on it.